Here comes Hamlin, storming up the outside of the racetrack for second.
And that outside lane up to the second spot, led by Denny Hamlin. Throws the block, does Matt Kenseth. He's out of shape. Here comes Martin Truex Jr. to the bottom.
Checkered flag waving at the start-finish line. Who will get there first? It's Truex on the inside, Hamlin on the outside, and too close to call. Denny Hamlin showing up as the race winner.
The RotoExperts in the morning here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Always simulcasting live on the Fantasy Sports Network. FNTSY, the first ever TV channel dedicated to fantasy sports. Check it out on Xbox One, Xbox 360, Roku, Amazon Fire, and now Apple TV. Anybody who listens to this show knows how much I love playing fantasy NASCAR. I felt like birds singing and the skies parting when DraftKings finally launched Fantasy NASCAR. I love to play on NASCAR Fantasy Live, and it's a real pleasure to welcome in the Daytona 500 winner from 2016 and a good fantasy player in his own right, Denny Hamlin, to the RotoExperts in the morning. Denny, thanks for waking up early after 2 days after a big win and spending some time with us.
That's great. I actually listened, so it's cool.
Oh, all right. We appreciate that. So, we watch you, so it goes both ways. So you're a daily fantasy player, I know for sure. And in DraftKings this week, you were a terrific bargain because you were under $9,000 and you scored over 82 points. You playing daily, when you hear you're the guy that helped people win tournaments or their head-to-heads or their 50-50s, how do you take it? Because you know what it's like to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess it's under one of those. Not really, I guess, a value play because, those are the lower guys when I'm thinking about, NBA and some other sports that I play, daily fantasy. And, I'm one of those guys that usually hits value, I guess. And Daytona track definitely reached a lot of value.
I'll get to the NBA stuff in a minute because I play NBA every day, and it doesn't always go very well. But, we're trying. But
not everybody shows up every day like you would think, right?
Right. You know what? We'll start there. So not everybody shows up every day. You lock a lineup in, and then a guy doesn't play. And that's the biggest disaster of it all. How do you take that? Do you play on DraftKings where you could swap it out late? Or you play somewhere like FanDuel where you're locked, and if a guy doesn't play, as we've seen with Jimmy Butler, and we've seen with some other guys this season, do you just say, wow, I'm screwed, that sucks?
Yeah, I started out in FanDuel, but have moved to DraftKings simply for that option of being able to switch out late. So, my research time is limited. Usually, on any given day that I'm going to play tonight, NBA, then I think I usually dedicate about an hour and a half of research to it. So, I don't spend all day like probably the pros do, but been successful enough to be at the break-even point of like, okay, I've kept myself entertained. This is fun.
So how do you balance that, especially like during football season? I know you play seasonal fantasy football too with the guys in the garage. We've talked about that before. To balance, practicing for the races and playing daily fantasy sports, is it better for you too than seasonal because the days of the week where you're not at the track, you're not practicing, you're not testing, it's something for you to do in your free time.
It is. So that's actually why we like to do it with me and my buddies. We do golf and everything, so it's a lot of fun. So I'm in my motorhome a lot. When we're not racing, I'm in my motorhome, and it's like, all right, well, we got to find something to do. And so I'm always sending a group text out. I was like, all right, guys, let's do Fantasy PGA this week or whatever. So we have a lot of fun with it, and it's very cool. And especially, that's why, having something that I can do research on while I'm sitting in the bus, it just takes up time and it's fun.
Scott asked, obviously, the good question of how does it feel playing DFS knowing that people can pick you in DFS? And that's an awesome question because I don't get to feel that way.
Right.
But another way I don't get to feel, which you just got to, with us, I'm sure you're going to do it all day as you make the rounds here at Sirius, but the hearing yourself, the clip of yourself when you walked in here, winning the Daytona 500, the crown jewel, right? Something you've never done before. How does that feel? Because something else I'm never going to experience.
It's so big. I mean, the Daytona 500 is our biggest event, and it's just, that was as close to like hitting the game-winning shot is possible in racing. I mean, we didn't lead the last few laps. We led off the final corner for a few few feet and won by a foot. And it's like, I mean, if there was ever a Michael Jordan Game 6 winner, I mean, that was it.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
It was very interesting because you'd run the Sprint Unlimited the last 2 years, including this year. You'd come close in the Daytona 500 twice the last 2 seasons. But now this is something where Joe Gibbs compared it to like winning a Super Bowl, which he had with the Redskins, and also, you know, everybody's talking about it. You wrote a note when you were 7 years old, you know, when you were in grade school, about winning the Daytona 500, wanting to do it in a car that looks like Bill Elliott's.
Yeah, so I had his number. I got that part of it right, but it's crazy. You can write a letter, and 30 years later, I mean, you know, that was the crazy part about that letter is that, you know, when you're 7 years old, the chances of you actually becoming a Sprint Cup driver is like 1 in 4 million. I think I actually saw it. It's something silly, but then actually winning our sport's hardest event and making that letter come true is just, I mean, no telling what the odds were, but that was really cool. And I always used to bug my mom. He's like, "Mom, why do you keep all this old stuff?" She keeps all my terrible report cards and all these essays. And I was like, you know, that's cool to look back on now.
And then Bill Elliott won it twice, and now you had Chase Elliott, who was on the pole, you know, and he's a top rookie, and we're talking a lot about him in fantasy. You know, having idolized Bill Elliott growing up and racing against Chase, what's that like, and what do you expect from him in his rookie year?
I expect a lot, really, from all the rookies. I think this is a really strong rookie class.
Blaney too.
Oh, you know, this is the strongest rookie class, and when I say strongest, you know, be careful with our expectations this year, but give those guys time. In a few years, they're really going to be contenders for the chase every single year. But they're all getting in good cars. It's if you've seen over the last 10 years, there's only been about 1 or 2 rookies that's like gotten in a car that's competitive. You know, we've got like 3 or 4 that are in competitive cars. So it's going to be cool to see those guys work their way up the ladder on Sundays.
We're talking to Daytona 500 winner Denny Hamlin here on the RotoExperts in the morning. Scott Engel and Greg Sussman. And as Denny's been saying, not only does he race, but he's also a massive DFS player, including DFS Hoops, which, as I said, I play every day. And then breaking even is close to what we're doing here.
That's right.
But is there a go-to guy you've been going to in the NBA, depending on the price? I mean, for me, you know, recently it changes.
Isn't.
But
I feel like if there is a go-to person, then I'm not doing proper research. I mean, there's just, you know, eventually their salaries catch up to them.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, I like to buy low on people. You know, when their stock gets depressed, and it's like that guy is capable of we know any given night putting up a 25 and 8 number.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know, and he's, you know, 7,500 or something. I was like, absolutely.
Sure. Now, do you feel, because at least you're involved in professional sports, do you have friends in the NBA? Do you feel forced to play them when you're playing DFS?
No way.
Good.
I have no problem. I'm a season ticket holder at the Hornets, and whoever they're playing, I have no problem picking any of the other guys for sure.
Perfect. That's how you should be playing, to win.
Yeah, you play to win.
I was so happy when DraftKings started daily fantasy NASCAR. My son and I, we sit every Sunday in front of the TV with our laptops watching live scoring. I'm telling everybody that's playing, like, the Gibbs cars are really the guys to beat this year. How did you feel when DraftKings launched Fantasy NASCAR? It's really, you know, we've had Yahoo for so many years, NASCAR Fantasy Live, RT Sports does seasonal leagues, real-time sports. They even do Xfinity. But how did you feel when finally, which I was campaigning for years, that they did Fantasy NASCAR?
I didn't like it that much because now I'm getting all my friends to be like, well, who's good? And I'm just like, no, stop it. Stop asking me those questions. I have no idea. I ain't got time to do research for you. So it's really cool. We just hope that it does for NASCAR what it's done for other sports. You know, look at how much other sports have grown.
Sure.
And really when you talk to other people and they're like, okay, what would you rather win, your fantasy team or your favorite team? And now the overall public says, I want my fantasy team to win over their favorite team. So that tells you how much people love fantasy playing, and you know, we just hope with NASCAR it draws those eyes to our sport that necessarily wouldn't be, especially in a season right now where football's done.
Yep.
Baseball's not in season yet, so encourage everyone to go play.
Yeah, it's a good time to pick it up, and like I keep recommending the Gibbs cards. 3 of you guys finished in the top 5 Daytona, and Kent was running in the top spot in the last lap. And I read where you said it really wasn't even your intention maybe to, pull out and win like you did, that, you guys were really focused on helping Matt win the race.
Yeah, I mean, that was the key, is that, I mean, last lap, I think anyone understands it's every man for himself. But, yeah, I mean, our plan was to stay in line and keep pushing. But I saw the 4-car of Harvick coming on the outside. I'm like, well, my first initial reaction was just I turned up there to block. And what happened was, when I turned up there to block, the guy behind me, Carl Edwards, just filled the hole on the bottom. So I'm like, okay, well, now my bed's made, and I've got to make something of this line. So the outside line had done nothing all day long. They had not gotten to the lead. And somehow, with that push from the 4, we just kept – you couldn't see. And watching back the race, they were showing the head-on. It was like, if they showed from the side, you could see energy starting to build in our draft, and it was like, uh-oh, we're getting a huge run. And I have some lights on my tack that's like, tells me, it's not like a speedometer, but it's just as we gain speed, I've got some lights that start going off, and it was like, he got behind me, and it was like, ding, 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 ding. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, I think Walt Waltrip was saying, I was watching the broadcast, it was like, I don't know if you can get him. I don't know if you can get him. Whoa, it's that was some push.
It was, that and just the crazy pulling down to the middle of the racetrack off of turn 4. That was hard to do, because that corner was slick all day, and we saw Dale Jr. spin out by himself there.
And as you said, this is the build-up, and just literally, it's almost just watching like a movie right in front of you, right? Your lights are lighting up and just going higher and higher, like, oh my god! And then you realize, as you're at the end, you're fighting for it within feet, as you were saying before. Did you know right when you crossed the finish line that you had it?
No, it took a little while. I mean, the thing is, when you cross the line, you can kind of, for a split second, you can look at the scoreboard, the pylon,
right?
And I saw our number pop up. But they have the scoring for the timing and scoring is on the back of the car.
Okay.
But they always if it's a photo finish, they use the nose of the car. So a lot of times there can be 2 different winners. So and I was like, I can't go off of that because I don't know where our nose was, and so I'm keying the mic saying, what's going on, and did we win? And everyone's trying to key at the same time, and you kind of hear people in the pit box yelling and screaming. I'm like, I'll take that as a yes. So.
You're just trying. All you're doing is trying to find out if you win. You can't hear anybody talking to you.
Especially for Mike Wheeler, with your history. This is his first race as your official Sprint Cup crew chief, and he was your lead engineer, and then went to the Xfinity Series. But you guys kind of came up together, about the same age, same interests. So I know this was real special to win this with your new crew chief.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, this guy is someone that hopefully I'm going to be with for a very long time. This has been in the works for a long time. I told him, I promised him this crew chiefing job probably 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, and it's just taken this long to get him through the process and going to the Xfinity Series, learning leadership, and then coming back to the Cup Series. So it's great to have him, and obviously, he's thinking this is easy. 2 for 2, 2 weekends, 2 wins, no problem. So we got a great season started already.
That's perfect.
I know you were bouncing stuff off of him even when he wasn't your crew chief. Real quick, before we wrap up, tell us about the Denny Hamlin Foundation for cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, we got a great foundation started, and what we do is we give back to a lot of different children's charity, but the number one benefactor of our Denny Hamlin Foundation is cystic fibrosis. It's something that's so close to having a cure. My cousin has it. That's why we chose to give back to that, the research for that the most, and encourage everyone to go to dennyhamlin.com to donate, or the Denny Hamlin Foundation. So we're excited about it. We do a lot of different charity events, and hopefully people can check that out.
All right, what's your outlook for Atlanta coming up next week?
Looking forward to it. I mean, there's a new downforce package, so we're all looking forward to it. I encourage everyone to check it out because what we're putting on the racetrack this year is what the drivers have been asking for a very long time.
You talked about, my final question is, you talked about before what DFS has done for your sport, and you're hoping it continues to do, but I need to know what it does to your Twitter account. I know things are going well right now, but at Denny Hamlin's probably going to blow up when things don't go so well.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So, I mean, that's the Twitter replies and everything, you can tell that NASCAR fantasy is starting to build some momentum because it's like you get you're the man, you helped me win, or you suck, you made me lose tweets. So.
It's probably much harsher than that.
I always tell people, though, use loop data, though, and you'll be all right planning for a race, right?
Yep.
I mean, how much you guys pay attention to that?
We see that the loop data, I mean, all the time, and we use tons of stats just to prepare for a given race. I mean, we know who we're going to be racing on a given weekend, and but it changes every year. You know, there's peaks and valleys to every team. You know, the Gibbs team was on a high, and it's a matter of, like, can we maintain that this year as well? Because it's just the other teams, they keep fighting. They're not going to just sit in the basement and let you win all the races. So it makes them go to work, and you never know with a new season who's going to be a player.
Denny Hamlin, Daytona 500 winner. Could be a champion this year. Joe Gibbs Racing looking very good. One of those guys could end up being the champ when all is said and done at Homestead. Thanks for stopping by as we get our fantasy NASCAR season going, and best of luck to you, Atlanta.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all having me.